Moving ahead with the second last session of the day, breaking down silos, integrating talent management processes for organizational success by Mr. Sudhir Warier, Head Learning and Development in Premise Connect at Reliance Jio Infocom Limited. Can we have a big round of applause for Mr. Sudhir? Sudhir is a distinguished entrepreneur, human capability management coach, consultant, author, and a keynote speaker with over 30 years of experience in learning and development, human capital management, and organizational transformation. Currently heading training strategy and planning for Home Connect and Care at Reliance Jio Infocom. He oversees skill development for 36,000 plus personnel engaged in broadbanded sales, installation, and service across India. His expertise spans competency management, leadership development, and integrated talent strategies, ensuring workforce readiness in dynamic business environment. Over to you, sir. Please put your hands together for Mr. Sudhir.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. How do I move the slides? This one. Good afternoon, everyone.
You can take the mic.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm the second last person. I am the one standing between your tea break and the award ceremony. And the keynote before the panel discussion, there was a talk about attention span, Gen Z versus people from our generation. It used to be 20 minutes. 20 minutes used to be the attention span for an adult. And with Gen Z, any guesses how much it has become? Yeah, it's 43 seconds. That's why we have Reels, from LMS courses to Reels. Okay, so the end point is that I need to keep my presentation short. I need not bore you before the tea break. Okay, so this topic that we have is something that every one of us is aware of. I mean, it's nothing new. There's no rocket science here. Okay, how to ensure that we have a seamless talent management process. So I have structured my presentation around three small sections: understanding the why, the what, and the how. Okay. So let's start with a quick poll. Okay. So I just want your perspective on this important question. Which is the biggest barrier to integrating talent management processes within an organization? To make it simple, I have put in 4 choices. The first one obviously is collaboration. Okay. Second is disparate systems and technologies. Okay. The third one is the resistance to change. And fourth one is accountability and leadership. So anyone? All of the above, that's a good one. Anyone else? So the question is, what are the barriers to integrating talent management within an organization? Okay. So we got one response which actually sums up all the 4. Okay. So collaboration, resistance to change, yeah. Too much of change, okay. Okay, so there's one more interesting feedback, too much of change. Okay, okay, let's go to the next one. Okay. So we've identified the problem. So integrating talent management is a problem. Okay. Now, what could be the possible solutions for that? Okay. So one is cross-functional collaboration between the entities. Okay. So we always have 3 players. One is the hiring team or the HR. The second is the L&D team, the one which gets the person ready for role. And the third is the business team, which is actually using the resources for productive work. Okay. So one is cross-functional collaboration. Now, AI is the new buzzword, so using AI-based systems for real-time talent insights. Okay. The third is use of a common platform. So this does happen even though we might think, how could we have an organization with diverse platforms? But yes, you do have in certain cases platforms that don't talk to each other. And fourth is a cultural change. So which do you think are the most relevant ones, or are all of the 4 relevant? Second one, AI driven. Anyone else? 4 and 1. Okay. So that's leadership and cross-functional collaboration. Okay. Thank you for your inputs. Let's just go in for the first section. Okay. So why do we need an integrated talent management process? I think it's fairly very simple, right? So if the organization needs to be agile, it needs to ensure that its resources are adaptable to the changes in the business environment. And talent management process, integration of a talent management process is one way to make sure that we do that. So normally people don't realize what they are losing. I mean, at one side, it might not be readily apparent to us what is the issue with not having a seamless talent management process. But if you look at the numbers carefully, you find that there's a lot of impact that a talent management process has within an organization. So let's look at the first point. So as per a study by Gallup, it says that employee engagement is a key. So engaged employees contribute 23% to your business revenues. That's a huge amount, right? The second part. So Deloitte estimates that we lose around $1.3 million per 1,000 employees. That is because of the disparity or the silos that we create in the entire process. Lack of innovation, so agility of the company to respond to market needs, and decision making. So we have a lot of bottlenecks in having the company respond to the needs of the market. So this is just to explain some of the critical factors on why these silos are a problem for an organization. Okay. The next thing is what? So if we need to have the company respond as it should to the current market needs, we need to ensure that we have a method of ensuring that we don't have silos within the organization. So what are some of the probable causes, or why do we have these silos? So the first and one of the major problems is structures. The hierarchy within the organization. That is one of the common factors, one of the critical factors that results in the creation of silos. Okay. The second thing is, since you have an hierarchical structure which does not permit communication flow between the entities, communication is also a problem. Since we have a disparate structure, goals is also an issue. And lastly, we have technology. So the ones that we were talking of, disparate systems, okay, or lack of the communication between the entities owing to technology. Okay. Now let's look at how. Okay. So I represent a company, we provide broadband services. Okay. So we have a team of engineers that exceeds around 60,000. So broadband installation from a customer perspective looks simple. You have an engineer coming in, there's some cable to be pulled, a couple of devices to be connected, and your services are on, right? But behind the scenes, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Okay? So training these engineers to ensure that they do the first time right is a very difficult proposition. Okay? So there are a lot of elements depending on whether you are having a fiber-based broadband or whether you are having a wireless broadband. So that calls for cognitive skills, that calls for motor skills. Okay? And in some cases, the fine motor skills. So the motor skills are the ones that ensure that the customer is satisfied. That means if I don't pull a cable properly, if I don't connect, or if I don't make the connector or splice the connector properly, the customer is not bound to have a service as an what they desire, right? So training these guys is very difficult. So we have frontline supervisors who are supposed to ensure that the processes that are laid down are followed. Okay? They do audits, they speak to customers, they take the feedback. Okay? So there's a lot of churn in this first level of supervisors because it's a high pressure job. I mean, it's like working 24/7. You have complaints, you have engineers, you have resources to be managed. So we always used to have a blame game. So the business will come back to you and tell you that the L&D is no good. They don't know how to train. Okay. If you look at the L&D team, if you ask the trainers, they will say that the hires themselves were not correct. Okay. And the HR team says that both the L&D and the business teams, they can't know how to take care of a resource. So it's always a blame game. So what we did was, first thing that we did was we started a referral program. So if I am a supervisor, I get to recommend someone else into the job. And in case the guy is selected and spends 3 months within the organization, he or she gets an incentive. If the person whom I recommend performs after 6 months, and if the person is in the system for more than a year, there is an additional incentive. Okay. So we started a pipeline. Okay. Second thing was the hiring decision. So instead of only the HR or only the business, it was a panel that consists of the HR, the training team, as well as the business. Trainers are good judge of people. They can understand who is a guy who has a potential to succeed. So we had a panel to come in. Third is we had a training program which was dynamic, which was more field oriented. So there's a lot of checks in place. There's a lot of motor skill training that we do. And at the end of the training, there is a handoff. So there is a business panel, the members of the team from where the person will be deployed, they will interact, they will find out if the person is ready, and only then the guy goes off onto the work that they are supposed to do. So attrition has come down around 80-90%, right? Our KPIs are, almost all of the KPIs are being achieved, and there's a lot of improvement in customer satisfaction also. At one time, we used to have negative NPS, and now it's come down pretty high. Okay. So that's an example of how there were silos in the organization and how we could integrate all of them together. Of course, there was a use of technology and things like that. Okay. So the key components of having an integrated talent strategy is, one is making sure the right hire. Okay. So that's what we did. We started the referral campaign. We had a panel, and so it was not a unilateral decision, not something that the HR speaks or the business speaks. Of course, both perspectives are different, and we need all of them together. Second thing was ensuring that the L&D is also a partner in this, so the person knows what are the gaps in the competencies. Okay? We have a competency map for every role, so we can know what areas the person is lacking. Third is all the trainings are KPI driven. Okay. So the efficacy of the training is not just on clearing assessments, but on ensuring that the person after training is able to realize those KPIs. Okay. So it's directly linked to the performance. And the last is ensuring how the person is growing in the organization. Okay. Ensuring that there is a pathway for that person to move. So during the training itself, the different paths that the person can take at that point of time within the organization is clear. Okay. So what we did was 3 separate silos, 3 functions used to operate in their own domain, right? We brought them together, okay, onto a common framework. So the handoff points are very clearly outlined. Okay. There is a consensus in the acquisition also. Okay. So the workflow is such that all teams are involved. So at any point of time, I cannot say that I did not know the nature of the person who came in, right? So the business team is also very clear on what resource they have gotten. So they cannot come back and say that they were not trained, they were not hired properly. Okay. We have a workflow, so we use a lot of systems. We have systems in place, right from tracking the initial shortlisting of the employee to its deployment and the monitoring of KPIs. So the end-to-end process, the workflows are set. Okay. And all of them, so it's not like, normally what happens is HR will have their KPIs to ensuring that the gap is less than, or the manning is up to a certain percentage. L&D will have an KPI that they should ensure that training is completed within a certain TAT, the scores are within certain figures, and of course the business have their business KPIs. So they're not isolated. We have a common set of KPIs. So everyone, so it's the HR also is ranked on how the hires are faring in their KPI achievements. Okay. So it's a common KPI that we are tracking. Okay. So we have, so in order to make this possible, what is required is you should be having a map for each and every employee. Okay. See, what happens is hiring decisions are, many cases not taken based on the, based on the whole. They are not holistic. They are point in time. Okay. So, for example, business says that I need a requirement. I have a requirement for a manager. These are the skill sets. So what the HR does is they start with a keyword search. They try to get people in, right? But I do not have a picture of what is the other capabilities that person has or the other competencies that the person whom I am trying to recruit has. So we don't track what is the entire skill set of a person coming in. And why is that important? Tomorrow when I have openings in other roles, I could easily move people internally rather than hiring freshly every time. So we don't track the competencies nor the flows within the organization. So learning has changed from offline structured programs to, as we said, reel-based programs. So that's where LXP comes in, an experience platform. So it will help you hyper-personalize your learning strategies. I mean, it can cater to a person who needs a structured to a one who needs a more visually oriented learning. Okay. So in order, first and second, to succeed, we should ensure that there is tracking and management. Okay. So that's the third part of the coin. Okay. So to sum it up, the three major elements are collaboration, so joint ownership, right? Analytics, so real-time data that's flowing through that allows us to view the status of our decisions and to ensure that there is a continuous engagement and a culture of learning. Yeah. Okay. So if you see, having an integrated talent management is very, very essential. So 85% higher engagement, right? 2x learning and your strategy, the success of your strategic initiatives, and 60% faster decision making because they are data driven, not subjective, not whimsical. Okay. So the roadmap is simple. So understanding where you are is the key to understanding where you want to be. Okay. So how do you plan to break down the silos? That depends upon what your current status is, okay? Whether it is resistance to change, whether it is lack of collaboration, or whether it's the systems and processes, your workflow. Okay? So similarly, I mean, once you identify where the problem lies, that's where you will decide upon what is the technology that will help you to create an integrated workflow. And you keep on taking feedback, measure your success, and refine. Okay? So that's pretty simple. Questions, please. So I've completed on time. Okay. So she's giving me a special award for this. Yeah, questions, please. So no questions is a good sign. Okay. Oh, there's a question. Okay. Please. One second, I can't hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Hello. Hello. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening. Thank you for the nice presentation, sir. I have a very, the word itself kind of made me inquisitive. I saw the learning is predictive in the flow. I'm very curious to know how it could be, how you could make it predictive so that you're proactive in making people available, maybe competency or those gaps wise. Could you help?
I'll just try to relate it with an example of what we do. Okay. So I'll go back to the example of training engineers to install broadband. Okay. So there are different stages. I mean, just to explain my point, let's say I'm providing a fiber-based broadband. Okay. So what happens is there is pulling of a cable from a junction box to the customer home, okay, installing the devices within the customer, and then initiating the service. Okay. Now there are different processes for each of these. Okay. Now what happens is there is a workflow. In our case, there is a digital platform where I can track each of this. So once I do a connection, I take a picture and upload it. Okay. So the supervisor can also see those pictures, not in real time, but once that work order is over, he can see that. So if I identify a problem there, I can flag that. Okay. Once I flag that, then what happens is the next day morning, the micro learning session that is applied to that guy will be based on what he is done.
Okay.
So over a period of time, I have a model by which I can predict the common places where people could do wrong, and we can have the learnings tailored to that. Okay. That's a simple example. It's not a fully integrated auto. There is some manual intervention also required, but that's an example of predictive learning.
Excellent. Thank you.
So I know that first 3 months, these are the common learning needs that my team would have. So that's predictive. Okay. Anyone else? Thank you and wish you the luck for the awards. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your wonderful session. Next, I would like to call upon stage Mr. Pareen Vitlani, VP Training and Development at Swasti Micro.